Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are back with our Tribe Talks. I'm Catherine Gagno, the Executive Director for the Natural Life Business Partnership, NLBP for short. We are a unique global business community, a very high-achieving, soul-centered entrepreneurs who want to level up their businesses and co-create with like-minded professionals. We collaborate, we guide one another, and we also hold each other accountable, and we model what's possible. We provide resources, most important, and of course, we inspire one another to aim higher. And plus there's coaching as well. That's a part of our benefits package. And at the end, there's incredible power when the empowered and enlightened gather together. Today, I'm excited for our member, David Stretanski, who's going to join us today. As you know, I always like sharing our members' background because they can be an inspiration for anyone who is considering a career shift, or how did somebody get into this soul-centered entrepreneur, this holistic field, healing arts industry. And so David's background, he was actually an electrical engineer, spent a career over at AT&T. He is now a leader on the global expansion team for the natural biotech company ASEA Cellular Health. He provides a new category of cellular health therapy that replenishes the simple messaging, fundamental to cellular renewal, healthy aging, athletic injury recovery, and skin repair. David helps people learn about the benefits of this natural health approach through testimonials and education, and with benefits to both cellular health and a fulfilling purpose, helping others benefit as well. So let's get David into the call. So I'm excited to welcome him. Oh, there he is. Hello, David.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. I like your shirt. So I just shared your really comprehensive background, which I love, and I think I'd shared with you. You have such, an amazing journey, and sometimes you may not think of it this way, but when I was listening to it, it's quite inspirational from your background as working at AT&T as an electrical engineer, and then obviously making a pivot in your career. And you've taken some various different paths, but it's not a traditional holistic from, working in your 20s all the way through. So you've taken a little bit of a different journey than maybe others have. So I love to hear, and, all these various experiences along the way have come into a collective for yourself. And so I'd love to hear you share your journey, because I do think it's quite impressive how you've come to where you are today and what you are doing today. So would you want to share with us?
Sure, absolutely.
All this, because it's so comprehensive.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, it's been quite a journey, but you can look back and say, I wish certain things didn't happen, but then you're like, but no, then your life would be different today. And I'm really happy with where I am today. So as you mentioned, I started out my career as an electrical engineer out of college, working for AT&T. I was actually working on their intranet before there was even an internet.
See that?
So I was working in the networking space. And what most people didn't know about me at the time is that I wasn't well. I had hurt my back wrestling in high school, and that had sort of healed and twisted my posture to the point where my love for being active left me laid up for a couple of days every time I tried to do something, whether that be skiing or playing, a fun sport, softball, something like that, or whatever it was. And with that came along doctors and medications and medical advice that led me to muscle relaxants and painkillers, and a lot of anxiety over this inability to really do what I wanted to do, which, I love being active. And that led to some digestive challenges because of all the stress from that. Essentially, if my back would spasm, I'd be on my knees and there wasn't anything I could do about it. And I could be giving a presentation to 100 people and that didn't matter. So it adds a little anxiety to your day in a career you're trying to build when there's that uncertainty. And so so I spent most of my 20s in that state, sort of a fight or flight, trying to get through my day and doing things that I loved. And luckily, at around age 30, some information came across my path. First, about mindset, about this personal development idea. I was introduced to Tony Robbins at 2 a.m. on one of his infomercials, and I wasn't happy with something that was going on in my life at the time, and I decided to get one of his programs. And so I started to realize that I could change my thoughts and my choices. And a few months later, a friend of mine who I had shared Tony Robbins with shared something back to me from Tony Robbins that had to do with health. And it was a VHS tape, those tapes we used to have, which is dating myself, but that's where it was. And I watched the tape and I started to think, well, maybe I could change, my diet, and maybe that would help. And for some reason, my intuition said, go for it. And I radically changed my diet overnight. And in a couple of days, I started to feel just a little bit better. And I said, okay, I think I'm onto something. The medical advice over 10 years couldn't help me. And I just became a student of everything I could, natural, holistic, health. And I used to joke, and sometimes still do, that if you can't find me, go to Barnes & Noble, find the health and wellness section, and that's probably where I would be. Because I just spent my time working on my career, but also working on my health through learning as much as I could about as much as I could. And about a year or two later, I was then introduced to a physical therapy program that allowed me to adjust my posture and basically realign myself so that I could get moving again, pain-free. I had fixed my digestive issues for the most part. And I had reduced anxiety through the mindset. But then I said, okay, how do I get my body back to the point where I can get moving again to kind of get my health and my mindset to the next level? Right. And very successful in that program to fix that. And that got me running a little. And, the joy of being able to run and not being in pain for a couple of days was huge. And then one day I bought a stopwatch, and I started to run more competitively. And I started to put a number on the joy of running.
Right.
And of course, that led to some injuries, lots of lower leg injuries, just nagging things. I wonder what the run's going to feel like today, because you never knew. And so had to take some time off from running in that time frame. And when I did that, I was introduced to a very simple concept or running technique program called ChiRunning, which is the application of Tai Chi principles to running, which not only has a physical component of how to run, but also changing your running into a mindset or a mindful practice, which gets away from that watch that was on my wrist. And I started to employ these principles, and my running injuries melted away within a week or two. They've never come back. And it just turned into a practice of just loving to run and finding some trails and being out in nature and going for a run to get something from the run, not to get just through it and get some number in a book or be able to run a race. And that led me to running longer and longer distances. I started to run the trails and I'd run a couple hours in the trails. And that made me think, well, how far can I run? And that got me introduced to the idea of running an ultra marathon, which, for those who don't know, it's a run that's longer than a marathon. Usually it's 31 miles or 50K or like a 50 miler or even longer. And usually it's in a trail somewhere. It's not usually done on a road, because the mindset is not to run for time. It's more to run for the experience and to take it all in. And so I was very successful in that. I was very efficient, and my health was good because my nutrition was pretty much spot on, and was just enjoying that. And then in November of 2010, I was out at a group run with a bunch of friends who I'd met, lots of social running, and just that whole thing of running came into play. And a friend of mine had this spring in his step, this energy about him. And I asked him what he was doing, because I knew something was different. And he said, well, I'm trying this new cellular health therapy program that I just started. And it's the third or fourth week, I think he said. And I said, I feel great. The light switch just went on. I said, well, what is it? He shared about 2 or 3 sentences with me. And I said, wow, that's right up my alley. I've done all the other things. I thought this would take, my health and my running to another level. And what was interesting about that time frame is it was 10 days before I was scheduled to go run my big race of the year. It was a 50-mile ultramarathon down in Maryland. I had done it 2 years before. And 10 days before a big event, you don't change anything. You don't go out to dinner anywhere strange. You don't, you really just in the last 10 days, you don't do anything that's risky. And, but something about it said, give it a try. And so I tried this approach. It's basically a liquid that replenishes something very important to our health that's already in us, but depleted. It's not nutrition. And I decided to try a couple ounces a day. And within a few days, I was sleeping through the night. And well, I hadn't done that in a while. So that was the first marker. But I go to the event 10 days later, and I ended up taking 43 minutes off my time from the year before on the same course. Relatively same weather. Didn't really train differently. Didn't really change my diet. So the only thing I could point to was this completely natural cellular health therapy. And that got me thinking, like, okay, what is this really? And I started to realize, well, this would help me with my running, but this is really a health approach. This is really for, anyone that might have a particular health challenge, completely natural. And the first thing I thought of is I need to get this to my parents. They were relatively healthy, but a few, quality of life issues around age 70. And in particular, I was worried about my mom. My mom was having some cognitive challenges, a very bad condition of what her mother had years before. And I was really worried about her. And luckily, my parents were open to trying it, and they started having quality of life benefits fairly quickly. But about 6 to 9 months into her using this, I started to realize that I wasn't having those conversations with her where I was worried about where her condition was headed, that she was doing better in that realm. And it's been a little over 10 years for them. And still, my mom is doing really well in that regard. And they've had their other benefits. My dad out hikes all of his friends who are 20, 30, 40 years younger than him. And so, so through all those experiences and learning about how other people were benefiting from this, I started to focus more and more on making sure as many people could hear about this. And it actually comes to market through people like me who have an experience, word of mouth, or what I like to say is heart to heart.
Right. Well, I like that, heart to heart. Right.
I'd rather have it come from an entrepreneur and someone who's had an experience and learn from them than say a marketing campaign, which is crafted to give me some information that, may or may not be helpful. And so it's taken, a brief experience for myself over my running to family and friends to a business that's developed all around the world in terms of helping people. And essentially the company has, and our businesses have all grown throughout the challenges that we've seen in the past year and a half. And it just continues to grow as more and more people want to know about natural ways to help the body do what it's designed to do, which has been my approach ever since, I had my challenges and over a decade of frustration, and then coming across some simple ideas that said, this is really what your body needs and wants in order to do what it's supposed to. Let's not interfere with it, with what it wants. Let's just help it do what it's designed to do. So some pretty amazing programming can go to work to keep us as healthy as possible.
I love this. And I think it's, first off, you found something that works for you, most importantly. But then, and I love the concept that you actually said there's no marketing that goes with the marketing is through those that represent the product or, work on behalf of, and, and it's all testimonial based. I absolutely love that because I think that that's just super smart. So kudos. And I do, I think there's so much more to it, and I will share people exactly what it is after, we wrap this up. But when we put it out there so people know more about it, because I think it's so important. But I want to circle back a little bit because we're part of the NLBP. You're a member. You have been for 3 years. And here we are as the Natural Life Business Partnership, a business community of soul-centered entrepreneurs, that heart-to-heart component. But what has been the biggest impact that NLBP has had on your career since you joined them 3 years ago? Your journey clearly started before you joined NLBP, and it's, you've kind of picked up with us, and you've been a part of us for 3 years. So what's one of the biggest impacts we have had in your journey thus far? Because it's still going.
I think the word that I would use in this case would be the word you use, which would really be just be community. NLBP became an outlet for me to connect with additional people and to continue that mindset of being a student, because even though I found things that have worked for me over the years, I have gratefully, I've always gotten that position where yes, I'd love to learn more about that. I'd like to know, because I'd rather know and then have the opportunity to choose than to not know. Because there are things in life that we know, there's things in life that we know we don't know, but there's also things in life that we don't know we don't know.
Right.
And so when I was introduced to the technology that I'm helping people benefit from, I didn't know what I didn't know, and luckily I was open to that. So the NLBP is just such a width of experience across all different areas, not just health, but also the business of health or supporting businesses of health. And I never know where I'm going to pick up another idea that can either benefit me or someone who's close to me or a client I'm working with in my current business.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never know. So, I'm grateful that I've taken that approach to just being a student. So anytime I can be around people who are like-minded, who are doing things, whether it's in the physical health space or the energetic space or the mindset space or physical movement, of course, I want to know what those things are, because you just never know where there's going to be a missing piece that's going to help somebody, including yourself. And
Right.
and along with that, it's also a place where I can come and I can support others.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse
Especially
me.
those that are, that's okay, those that are starting out on their journey.
No, I was just reflecting there a moment, so I'm sorry, but I was thinking
That's
about
okay.
back to when I was roughly 30, when someone handed me some information.
Take a moment. Yeah.
Where would I be today
Right.
if I didn't have that information? There's no way of knowing. So it's a place where I can come and perhaps support people. And I say this on some of our meet and greet calls all the time. As far as I'm concerned, we all have a very important health message that needs to get out. And, a rising tide rises all ships. So anything I can do to help others get their message out, because even though I think what I'm working on personally is very powerful, it's not the only thing. And it's not necessarily the thing that's going to work for everyone. And so I want to do what I can to make sure that that the gift that was given to me can get out to others as well, whatever that gift is. And so if I can support an entrepreneur, if I can support somebody who's coming into health or this business without any experience or without any motivation or without any belief in themselves, then that's part of my paying it forward or paying it back, however you want to say it, to make sure that the people who want to help people heart to heart have the support they need in order to move that forward, whatever that is. And the NLPP, there's a lot of people in the group who they do things that are similar.
Right. I was gonna bring that up.
I never really see any competition, because I think the NLPP attracts a certain person who understands that point that not every approach to health is for everyone, and we're all trying to put the pieces together for as many people as we can. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to benefit me or my business. I get just as much as fulfillment out of connecting two people of nothing to do with my business than maybe I do with someone who has an amazing health benefit from what we're doing. It's a bigger picture than just me and my business and the people that I'm helping directly. So I love the fact that it's a place where there's new ideas. And I don't know how my left brain engineering mindset allows me to consider energetic, health practices. I don't know how that happened. I have an idea, but my analytical brain was, X's and O's and math and all of that. And somehow I had some experiences that were opened up to that. So
right brain, left brain. No, but you really do. We chuckled on the call. You said, okay, so how much time are we going to spend on each? And I was like, oh, there's that engineering mindset. Yes. And I love it though. And I say that in all terms of endearment, but I did like it. But you are one of the most giving people when we're on those meet and greets. Like, you always leave such a huge you leave an impact on me every time. And I just, your rising tide, I use it all the time. Lifts up, I can never say it right, but
A
that's
rising
okay.
tide rises all
Tide
ships.
lifts all. It's like, that is, I feel like sometimes the mantra for this entire group, because sometimes I don't like when we say like-minded, because I think then people think, oh, it's like-minded in business, so how is my business going to fast forward, or how am I going to advance my business, etc. But I think it's that like-minded, that you're all there serving, and it's very heart-centered, and I think that's the like-minded component. But really, every person so thus far that I have been engaged with, yes, we might have various different health coaches or nutrition coaches, but everyone serves a very specific niche at the end of the day too. And even if it's the same niche, different personalities draw different relationships. So you're never, to your point, it's not this competition mindset. I mean, so I love that you really kind of focused on, shared that about your own experience. Because as somebody sits on the outside and kind of watches everything, it's so spot on. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And, as we get ready to wrap up, because I know we could keep talking, but I wanted to just ask, and I know we said, not 3, but 2 to 3 words that you think that you would use to describe NLBP. I'd love to hear those from you.
Sure, and this is something I share on those meet and greets as well. Usually, when we share a little bit about our experiences, to me, it's really this. It's taking that idea of heart to heart rises all ships, and it's really this idea of just a collaborative mastermind among people who want to help people avoid the challenges that I had. I was in a dead end, medicated, I would say bad medical advice for what was going on. And so it's a collaborative that everyone comes to it with different pieces, and is okay with people in the group, that don't quite, get what they're doing, which is fine. But we all try to understand each other and see where we can support each other. And that's where the mastermind comes in, because you see mastermind activities all the time where someone will post in the Facebook group and ask a question, or here's my 3-sentence elevator pitch on my next flyer, how does this sound? And people will support that and share as much as they can. And sometimes people even come in and say, I'm at a crossroads, I could either go here or here. And people start sharing, well, I tried that, and this is what happened with me, but that doesn't mean that's the case for you. And it's a sounding board. And that's what a mastermind is. At the same time, a mastermind is designed to be, you're supposed to be in a room where people motivate you, where people, you don't want to be the most successful person in the room. And you find that, the masterminds, they find each other, or even the triads, the accountability triads, the accountability triads are kind of moving together. And I know, the NLPP hand picks those and puts those together so that is the case, because when you're in a mastermind, you want people who are going to stretch you and really make you think, and that's yet another benefit of the group as a whole, not only the accountability triads.
Right. So it's that customized experience. And I just want to say too, because these are being recorded, as we know, but I want to just say that if anyone wants to connect with David, they must come to our meet and greet, because he is on every one of them. And then they can connect with you. We're going to share your details, because I do think you provide, there's, for those that are seeking or, just want to have a conversation, I think it's just such a value add, and you have so much to offer. So with that being said, and I love the collaborative, the mastermind, and the heart to heart at the end of the day. So I just want to first say thank you for joining us and being a part of this. These connected conversations where we're bringing you all out, and just, as a rising tide. So going to lift all the boats. Here we go. So thank you, David, very much. It's a wrap, and we will reconnect soon.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Bye.